Hello and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Commentary's Real Football, where we cater to all football fans. Today's recording was just before Liverpool's 2-1 win over Wolves, so we don't discuss that, but we discussed all the fixtures over the the important ones over the last 2 weeks. As well as playing Doctor, we looked at the rules and how to fix them with VAR, yet again, coming up with some more solutions. So please just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So we're back with a new guest today. There's me, Cos, and my dad, Greg. Welcome.
How are you, boys?
To the show. Alright. So, normally for the show, we like to go through a few stories at the start of the episode because, although we don't really have any particular stories. Cos, did you see anything in the news?
I got a good one.
Alright.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to start about the newly discovered superstar in the Premier League, right? The bloke that is supposedly wanted by Inter Milan and AC Milan.
Inter and AC? Really?
Who's this player?
Well,
superstar, mate.
You should know.
You should know.
I should know.
He's an absolute star.
Okay, well...
Both Inter. I know Ashley Young went to Inter.
No,
it can't be him.
No.
Oh, is he officially gone now?
Yeah, he's
well, there we go. There's
yeah.
the story. But
So
bigger story.
We're talking about Matty Longstaff.
Matty Longstaff.
Yep.
Of Newcastle fame.
Yep. So Matty
What?
is apparently being headhunted by Inter Milan.
That shows you the state of CDR compared to the
So-
EPL.
Don't downgrade Matty Longstaff, all right?
Obviously, they're seeing some potential in the bloke. Even Craig, who is one of the Newcastle fans, cannot see that
We've been
that greatness. So
a long
I watch him every
evading
game.
guest.
He has been playing well, hasn't he? Longstaff, but not saying he's a bad player, but
Well, last game,
Okay.
you know, when they scored in the last minute,
yeah.
Matty was instrumental because he stood outside of the box and was hypnotizing the defense.
So just for context, for anyone who doesn't know who Matty Longstaff is a young player, one of two Longstaffs playing for Newcastle, who's been getting a bit of game time this week, this season for Newcastle. I think he made his debut this season, scored against Manchester United twice, once in each game, and in one of those games it was the winner. But yeah, he didn't score in this game. Actually, we'll talk about that game quickly. Actually, we'll get to that later because that's part of the bigger pack of, because we've had 2 weeks of EPL, minus the Liverpool Wolves game, which will be played tomorrow morning in our time. But it doesn't really have much of an impact on the rest of the league because, well, let's be honest, it's over. But
Yeah, it's pretty much done now.
actually, before we go into anything, before I forget this, last week, on our big topic, I mentioned that one of the writers got fired for the mix-ups in the Italian newspaper and the stories with the Black Friday and the Three Monkeys. But turns out none of them, they didn't get fired. It was the firing was actually, I got my wires crossed, it was a reporter who got fired for just really, really casually
Making a banana joke.
It wasn't even a banana joke, I don't think. He just...
No, he mentioned bananas.
He mentioned bananas, but I don't think he mentioned it as a joke. He was just so oblivious to how...
Well, it didn't come from a place of hate. So.
No, it didn't. And because every other word that he said was just compliments. But anyway, he was the one that got fired. To be honest, I think it's more of like an early retirement because he's like 70 years old. So... But
yeah, that's
anyway, just correcting that because don't want to be giving out the wrong information. Now, VAR in the I can't remember if it was last week or this week, but they have a new red card protocol, right? Because before they didn't like going back on. They don't look like it looking at the screen, unlike everywhere else in Europe. in England, they refuse to look at the screen. They're trying to not use VAR as much as possible in terms of slowing down the game.
What's the protocol?
So for the red cards, now they check the screen. That's the only thing they check it for. Red cards to determine.
So there is a screen on pitch side.
There's always been a screen. They just haven't been using it in England.
I thought there was no screen.
Yeah, apparently there is a screen. So
why wouldn't the ref look at the screen? Now I'm upset.
As if you weren't already upset.
I'm always upset.
But so yeah, I mean they still refuse to.
I'm too tired to start yelling. That's the problem.
But they're still not looking at it for other things. They're still using the lines for offsides and all those kinds of things.
So if it's a red card of defence,
but if it's a red card offence, they will look at the screen. They will look at the screen. So
if they can change the rules mid-season for this, how come they can't work?
It's not changing the rules; it's changing the protocol.
So why not change the offside protocol?
Well, that's changing the rules.
Oh.
And I actually want to talk about that because
really?
The line for offside, right? It just made me think because I can't remember what the game was. I think Dad might have seen the game. I think it was in the first week, or the previous game week. The goal line, right? Goal line technology, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it's similar to VAR. The offside thing in the sense that if it's a hairline decision, then it's just 100% accuracy. It's in or out, right? But obviously no one has any issues with that whatsoever, right? There hasn't been even a slither of opposition to the goal line technology. However, obviously for offsides it's different, and we talked about this earlier. How for offsides, the interpretation is essentially changed because it used to be, if it looks offside.
Well, it's run by feelings, Mike. This isn't run by logic. It's all run by feeling. If someone has scored a goal and the ball is touching the line, because there'll be uproar. There will be uproar. If they allow the goal and the ball's still not completely over, there'll be uproar. Absolute uproar.
Well, but no one ever goes, that was, we got rigged by goal line technology. It's, it's just...
No, but because it's there.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? I mean,
the goal line is painted on the pitch.
I know, but
there's no margin for error.
Actually, there was... I did see a video done, I think Liverpool scored a goal against some team, and someone was doing a conspiracy theory video that the ball had crossed the line, but when it zooms out to the Hawkeye, which is the technology they use for, goal line technology, the ball isn't actually in the same place as it is on the camera, and it's taking up less space or something like that. So essentially, once they get
this man has a lot of time.
So there's room. So there's a margin for error.
Do things
apparently.
Like this. Oh, so there is.
Well, it was he just paused it. It's not hard to do, but apparently there's a bit of a small margin there. But they treat it as if it's perfect, so it's an interesting thing. But like I said, with the offsides, it's a bit different because the goal line, the interpretation was if it's flat out, if it's crossed the line, it's a goal. If it hasn't crossed the line, the entire ball, it's not a goal. But offsides, they were never called that closely. If someone is a toenail offside,
that's the thing. In the past, it was never like that.
Yes.
So that's what we're used to. What's
that's
been
the
happening,
thing.
And this is a change. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. They assumed that was what they used, but what they used was a bit different. I don't know.
Because in the past, if it concerns goals, people actually want to know if it's crossed the line or not.
Yeah.
And they'll accept that. But with offsides, it's a different mindset, different approach. And I guess that's the problem, really.
Yeah. Well, with offsides, I mean, I don't know if
because logically it's correct. The line is the line, and if it's offside, it's offside. But really, it's run by feelings.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't run by feelings. It was literally...
No.
The referee looks...
But what I'm saying is, if the fans aren't accepting the current situation, something has to be done.
Oh, that's... The fans are the fans.
No, the fans are very important.
I don't know. Dad, any opinions on the offsides? Are they good? Are they bad?
Well... I think it's better than it used to be.
There we go.
So I think
I think that's the kindest thing I've
said. The situation, right? I mean, I'm not happy with the way they're interpreting, let's say the armpit,
the armpit
offside or something like that. I think they should probably tighten up some of these rules and eliminate those weird sort of maybe parts of the body which I don't think particularly contribute to having an advantage, right? It's all about having an advantage, right? So, for example, if you have feet closer to the goal, then it's definitely an advantage, right? And then maybe they should just I don't know, update the rule of offside and bring in a couple of little extras that would eliminate that rubbish. But otherwise, I think now it's gonna be hard to go back to something like just visual offside.
The good old days.
Imagine going back to run outs in cricket, right?
Yeah,
that's just impossible, right?
No, I don't think
you can't judge, right?
Going back isn't the solution. That's clear, I think.
And then there is the point of the ball release, which is something that I suppose
it's not going to be perfect.
The viewer cannot judge, right? I mean, probably that can be manipulated by
and I think it is
by someone.
I've seen them really pushing to give an offside or not give an offside.
If you start that point where you freeze the frame and say that's it, that's the one, by say 1 or 2 frames, right? That could mean 5 centimeters, right? And some offsides are 1 centimeter, or
Well, the current rule is as soon as the foot touches the ball, so it's not when it releases it; it's just as soon as it touches it. But then, how can you tell when it touches the ball? It's coming from behind.
Even this has got a tolerance of 1 or 2 frames, right?
Exactly.
Or whatever. So.
But even then, it's a type of pass too. If you're passing it like on the side, you'll have a longer. Your foot will touch the ball for longer periods than a quick tap.
Yeah. So
it's hard to measure as well.
Well, we were talking about a solution in because a lot of people are talking about making the line thicker, and then essentially giving the benefit of the doubt to the striker. How about adding to that, say, because it's 1 or 2 frames where the ball is, makes the foot makes a connection with the ball. If any of those frames the striker is onside, it should be onside. I mean everyone's looking for benefit of the doubt to go to the striker. That's the biggest.
Well, everyone wants to see goals.
Yeah,
that's
well, they don't just want to see goals, but they do. Like the point of an offside is not.
Currently, they have eliminated any benefit of a doubt.
Yeah.
There is no benefit of a doubt.
Yeah,
right? They reckon it's scientifically proven,
and that's just it.
And I don't
think it's that accurate.
That's exactly right because of what we said. So, 2 or 3 frames, whatever way you want to do it, makes a big difference, and that tolerance. Say, LBW in cricket again, right? You have a
crossing the sporting.
You have a half ball that needs to hit the stumps. If the guy doesn't call it right, that's the tolerance, right? That is the tolerance, right? In football at the moment, they haven't worked out any tolerances, so the benefit of any doubt is eliminated at the moment, and the guy who is in charge of freezing the frame that he reckons is it is
because that's subjective too, isn't it? So it's allegedly a completely objective decision, but
it's an objective decision based on subjective analysis. Well, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean you can never pinpoint that frame exactly, and then on top of that, the line that drops down from the players, I don't know how they calculate it, but sometimes I don't believe it's in the right place.
When you really want to argue this, right, the real frame that counts should be the one where there is a millimeter gap between the foot and the ball.
Technically. So,
in other words...
But I think to simplify it, they've made it just...
you simplify, but you don't, right? Someone just made it up, right? That doesn't have any sense. It doesn't make any sense, right? Touching the ball, I can drag the ball with my foot. I can be touching it for half a second. Just thought
of that
right?
scenario where you just sort of pick the ball up with your foot and scoop it, and then the player's already 3 meters past the defender. But
if you define that point as being the point, it's half a second later that it actually should count, right? So that's for me. This is a bull rule, right? If that's what it is, I don't know if this is really it. But
well, it could be clever, but
you should have a zoom in on the foot, and you should be measuring the light gap between the ball and the foot, and that should be the frame, right?
Do they have the technology for that? It's a lot of detail.
I don't think. That's the thing. I feel like it's adding details to it that's going to make it even harder. But
it's not wrong though.
It's definitely not wrong.
But yeah,
it's just. I guess the thing is they need to develop the technology to make it so allegedly objective. The technology needs to improve.
What they're working with right now, it's just
Couldn't they use Hawkeye to work out some of these things?
Hawkeye but that's for tennis.
But
the Hawkeye is the same thing they use for goal line.
Oh, they do.
Ideally, they should
and cricket.
They should decide on that sort of error margin, which should be something, I don't know.
Yeah, there should be
10 or 20 centimeters or something, right?
20 is probably.
I like the thickening of the line. I like that for now, just based on what they're working with.
Yeah,
because
no one's gonna if you're offside by a millimeter past the 10 centimeter mark, no one's going to be angry that that's called offside.
Yeah.
Because and if someone makes it in just because there's an extra 10 centimeters or whatever,
it's still possible. Yeah, you still can bear it because it's not a big thing. I mean,
and it's not a changing of the rules. But all right, we've given offsides a good shot. There were another couple of things with the rules that this week had been copped a bit of an uproar. A few penalties that were given inconsistently. I can't remember the names now off the top of the games off the top of my head. But once again, it was the overturning and not overturning decisions for penalties. For some some decisions, for the start of the season, obviously they didn't overturn anything. Basically, it was just whatever happened on the pitch was what happened, and also they just weren't calling anything clear and obvious. Seemed to be like a massive threshold to get over. But now they're actually calling penalties and not calling penalties, and a disallowed goal for Liverpool against Manchester United, 1 of 2.
I thought it was a pretty disgraceful.
Yeah,
because the guy,
just a little clue.
The guy, whether he fouled him or not, but they recovered the ball, and the guy lost the ball, right? So that part of the play should be in the past. It shouldn't have any bearing on
it was pretty far removed
afterwards, right?
It was a bit like that offside decision for Aston Villa.
And clearly, it was debatable whether the keeper was really impeded in any sort of specific way.
Yeah, it was clutching for straws, really.
Because you are allowed to touch the keeper, right? You just didn't clutch him, you didn't, just hit him with your arms, or, you just have to maintain the balance, right, when you play, right? But the point, I think, was that when that happened, right, he didn't blow the whistle, right? The game went on. They recovered the ball, right? They were in the possession of the ball, right?
Yeah.
And then they made a mistake from which the goal was scored. How can that be overruled? It's beyond me.
It's a different phase of play, and the foul was innocuous. I don't know if you've seen the foul, because
I watched the highlights.
Yeah, you watched the highlights. Yeah. It was a bit weird because it just, you see the goal, you're like, it was
a great goal.
It's a great goal too.
There has to be a concept of there is a phase of the game which obsoletes something that happened before, right? And you cannot go.
Well, the change of phase should be that line that they draw. As soon as the phase of play, then although they have made that distinguish with the handball rule at least. They said with the handball, as it's only counted because how they've got that extra harsh rule for the attacking sides for the handball. So it's only a hand. Like if it hits the hand in any way whatsoever, in the creation of a goal.
This is probably the only clear part of this handball rule. Because otherwise, awarding penalties is still just hit and miss.
Well, the penalties, it doesn't count for them because it's only for the defensive team, for the benefit of the defensive team. So essentially, the rule is that the handball, the indiscriminate, it touches any part of your arm, no matter what, if you're trying to get out of the way or not. if it leads to the goal being scored or the assist being made, then that's when that comes into play. But if it happens before that, it doesn't count.
Yeah, so what's missing is something as magical for the other defending side, right? Because at the moment, sometimes you know the ball hits the arm and there is nothing, there is no penalty. Sometimes there is a penalty, right? Whereas the attacking team, crystal clear, and there is no discussion. You know, it touches your arm. That's it.
It's a free kick for the defending team.
But going back to the previous bit, right, about the different phases which should obsolete, you know, what follows, right?
Yeah.
I think there is one rule that definitely should make it. If if there is a phase where it's like in this Firmino situation, right? There is a change of possession, right, in the ball, right? Then it obsoletes.
Is this the foul on the keeper?
Say the foul. The foul on the keeper was, let's say,
that was Van Dijk.
Van Dijk, right? And let's say, we could argue that Liverpool were in possession, yeah. Then the possession changed back to United, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different phase already, but then they lose possession. Okay, so the possession changes again.
That's right.
How can that?
Yeah.
How can that be a continuous, you know, part of the game? You know, possession changed 3 times, right? And so 3 different phases, right? This is what I'm saying. This should obsolete the previous calls, right? You can't go 3 phases back.
I agree.
I think
if it's a continuous possession, right? Say you got the guy somewhere near the penalty box, and then for another 20 seconds you attack, right? Okay.
It's a different phase.
No, you attack. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the same phase, right? Because you know the guy could have blown the whistle at that point, and then the attack leads up to the score, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same phase, right? So if someone checks on the screen and says foul, okay, well, we call it back, even though it took half a minute.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a contiguous sort of thing, right? And here, possession changes, even though it's 5 seconds apart.
It changes twice.
It's an
error. And it's control as well.
That's right.
It's not just...
So one team has control changes again, and a goal is scored now, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
How can that be?
I agree.
Called off. I mean, this was a big mess, I reckon.
It was. Well, I mean, just to give it even more clarity, I mean, the rules for VAR are it's only called back for goals and red cards. That's it. They cannot use VAR for anything else. And since the phase of play before the goal was not to do with the goal, it was just a failed clearance and then Liverpool getting the ball back. I mean, you could separate that, and then
for sure
that should be the line there. And as what Dad's saying, just a clear division there. As soon as it's a different phase of play, that's not counted as part of the potential for a VAR decision. But
because that team was not penalised, even if it was considered a foul, they were not penalised by this foul because they recovered the possession.
Yeah.
Right? They were in control of the ball, right? They were penalised by losing that ball at that point, right? And there was no foul at that stage.
Yeah, they got the ball back.
Yeah. So this is where I think they really, really stuffed it up badly. And this can be very, very easily introduced into the rule book, and any third umpire or whatever, third ref, should be able to figure it out, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all. You know, it's simple. Just the change of phase should be the line. And I hope it's just a teething issue. They're still not used to the fact that they've got to separate these phases of play, because I think they want to implement it like that, and they have been in some games and some games not. But just quickly before we move on from the VAR and the rules, there was a few handballs as well. Manchester City, I think, had a blatant. I think it was in the game against Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace was the one that handballed it. They, it might have been Manchester City. It was in that game where a player sort of stuck out his foot and his arm as well, and it came off his foot into his hand, and they gave it as not a penalty. I thought that was quite incredible.
Is this the when he scored the goal for Crystal Palace? Because that finished 2-2. Yeah.
No. There was no goal. There was that handball, and then
I remember I watched
appeals for a penalty, and there was no penalty.
I could be wrong, but I watched highlights. I think it was Man City and Crystal Palace, where maybe it wasn't, but the ball hit both of the guy's arms straight, and he scored a goal.
Oh.
I forgot which team it was. I forgot because I watched highlights, one after the other.
Well, then that should be disallowed automatically.
Yeah, but it wasn't, and straight in.
That kind of reminds me of I can't remember.
No. I'm way off. This is our tight end. This was in the Leeds game.
The Leeds game.
Yeah.
They're getting some wires severely crossed here.
Wires crossed, yeah.
Leeds.
Do they have VAR there?
No.
It's
not in the Championship.
Definitely not.
That tells you what will happen now if you were to sort of remove it or something, because this sort of stuff up would not have happened in the Premier League, right? Because it would have been just disallowed straight away. It
was against QPR. He controlled the ball with his foot, and it hit both of his arms before, and then he scored a goal. Everyone missed it.
Yep.
So.
Typical for something like that happened to Leeds, but
yeah, well,
Anyway, moving on from that, in that game, that segues nicely into the first week of the 2 weeks that we're talking about this week, because there were two game weeks. Liverpool to play Wolves. That isn't going to affect the league at the moment. Last week there was Watford against Tottenham. Was a draw. But we'll start with the City game, because City went behind against Crystal Palace and then took the lead, and in the last 10 minutes, 2 Aguero goals, because he just can't stop scoring, and then they conceded again just a few minutes later and dropped more points.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace again getting one over Manchester City, and it's just weird. They keep dropping points. Liverpool
that sort of
keep
team,
winning.
Crystal Palace, aren't they? When you see Man City and Crystal Palace, you go, "Ooh, something may happen here."
We see Crystal Palace and any team up there, except for Liverpool this season. But
any team up the top of the ladder, it's like Crystal Palace. Oh, something could happen here.
Roy Hodgson, tactical genius. Roy Hodgson. No. What about
he's just lucky.
What about Steve Bruce at Newcastle? 1-0 over Chelsea.
That must. I think from what I've seen from the highlights of that game, I tipped Newcastle to win because Chelsea don't win at St James's Park. But that must have been the luckiest result I've ever seen.
Well, our mutual friend Craig was watching this game.
Yeah.
They had 30% possession. They had 7 shots, which is more than you'd sort of associate. But he just said they were completely awful the entire game.
Well, I'll say there's only one reason. Matty Longstaff.
Well, Matty, because he's still there.
He really hypnotises their defences.
Well, if both Inter Milan and AC Milan are after him, then he must be... he's got to be their best player.
I'm not sure how much truth
me.
No, I believe you, but it must be...
Actually,
he came on less than 10 minutes before the goal was scored.
Craig sent
the video?
The article about Matty going to Inter Milan, right?
Was it? Oh, but it was. I think it was from the Rag.
Couple of weeks ago or something.
Yeah, the
Sun.
The newspaper to not be named, but
the Sun.
Yes,
the Sun. I named it. But
you can name it. I can't. Yeah. But it's such a terrible. Whenever because occasionally you just click a link not knowing where it's going to, and then you go, oh no, and. It's just they're just so badly written, those articles. I don't think I've ever seen a genuine newspaper. I think Soccer on Sunday writes better articles than the Sun,
even though they're not real. Yeah.
And they're not even real. So it's such a terrible thing. But Newcastle, they didn't stop there either. They were 2-0 down against Everton this morning. Actually, yesterday morning. Something quite incredible. Everton were cruising, and then Ancelotti looked like he was going to cruise to another win. 2-0. It's the 93rd minute, I think, with 4 minutes of added time. And look, Matty Longstaff didn't come on. He started the game. Apparently, he was absolutely woeful for the entire game, but apparently he hypnotised the defenders.
Why does Milan want him then if he's woeful?
It was a Sun article. That's how. It's just a terrible newspaper. It really is a terrible newspaper. They don't want him. It's just
he petrifies defences. They freeze.
With his pale skin and fiery red hair, he just confuses.
That can't be true. Like two giant clubs are looking at this. That can't be true.
I'm telling you, this newspaper is the worst thing you'll ever regret to read ever in your life.
Well, I don't think I've ever read it, but I won't be near.
It's an eye opener. You have to do it.
I have to
read it.
No.
You'll be reading it for how terrible it is. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, but they scored 2 goals in the last. Not even the last. So
because even though I am a Juventus fan, I'm more of an Italian football fan first. Juventus comes second. That's the hierarchy.
The hierarchy.
Yeah. So this is actually, I'm actually worried if they're
they're not going for it. Don't worry. Although I did hear that he was going for. Well, he got Ashley Young, so they're just nabbing Manchester United players by the sounds of things.
Apparently, he's very good mates with Lukaku.
They're like Liverpool and Southampton. Just
Yeah.
It's a training
ground. Well, Ashley Young's good mates with Lukaku, and that's why. That was a big factor as to why he's going. Well, he's gone to Inter.
Gone. It's over.
Yeah.
But this Newcastle game, they brought on Lejeune, I think. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but he scored both the goals at the end. He scored in the 93rd minute.
He's the defender, isn't he?
Yes. Apparently he had 5 centre backs on eventually. Our mutual friend Craig was telling me about how they're so depleted right now. They've got Andy Carroll on the bench who basically can't run. He hobbles across the pitch when he's on. He's leading their assist tally. And he hasn't played all that much this season. John Joe Shelvey is leading the goal tally from midfield with 5 goals. They brought on 5 centre-backs. He had to put one of them up front. And obviously they scored from 2 set-piece situations. Both of them were just scrambles. One of them was a nice overhead kick, but really Everton...
he finished that like a striker, one.
Well, it was 90 minutes, 4 minutes at a time.
Who would have thought you could rescue the game by putting on centre-backs? That's amazing.
Well, centre backs are better at dealing with. He could have just happened upon this recipe for success by accident because it's all he had, and centre backs are better players to have for congested and set piece situations.
But that was an overhead kick. That
wasn't overhead. That was brilliant.
There wasn't a header or anything like that. That was.
And then the finish at the end was also just blasted into the goals. But seriously, 93rd minute, it was still 2-0.
Yeah, it's incredible.
They scored the goal.
And an incredible collapse as well.
And then the
perfect storm.
The 4th official said to Steve Bruce, the manager of Newcastle, after the first goal, there were 40 seconds left in the game. And obviously they don't start with possession, so I don't understand how a team could concede possession, let the ball get to... it was a free kick. They gave away a free kick.
But that's even worse.
But the free kick was... near the halfway mark.
Why?
But it was near the halfway mark.
There was no need to do it.
But the halfway mark.
I don't understand this mentality. Don't give away free kicks. It doesn't matter. It's not necessary.
It cost them in the end. And I was expecting Ancelotti to be mad because he's an Italian, defence.
I know, but he knows what to expect.
His post-match, he was very... He didn't blame the players at all. He said, it's like, look...
What did he say?
He said... I was once up 3-0 in the Champions League final.
He brought that
these
up
things
again,
just happen.
Well,
so
he's got a point. I've got to say, and that would have been a lot worse. That experience. So no wonder.
So nothing phases.
I suppose if you keep something like that in the back of your mind, you can't really get angry at anything.
No, he can't. But
football related, you can't.
But that was the So Newcastle. Grasping a draw from the jaws of defeat, and Everton with 2 draws for the week because they in the previous week they played against or the half week, they played against West Ham. They drew. They sort of snatched a draw there with a nice goal from Richarlison.
Richarlison. But overall, this is another disappointing season for Everton.
For Everton.
Say, yeah.
Well, they've picked up though.
They have, but it's still they know where they want to be or where they should be. Probably. So
on fire, Southampton lost at home to Wolverhampton after taking a 2-0 lead.
Yes, well, we do know about Southampton not being as good at home this season, and I don't know why this is surprising.
9-0 bad, but they were up 2-0 at half time.
It doesn't matter. They're at home. This season at home, they're not. And Wolves are a good team. They fight to the end.
They do.
They fight to the end. The Wolves.
They were on wobbly legs, but they fought a way through.
When you got the Holy Spirit, you keep playing.
The Holy Spirit.
Which one is this?
The Wolves manager. Can you remind me?
Espirito Santo.
Yeah,
Espirito Santo.
Espirito Santo. Yeah.
The Holy Spirit. He does look like a religious figure, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's Portuguese, right? So God knows what it means in Portuguese.
It has to be the same.
Has to be the holy.
Well, I'm claiming it. I don't care. He's the Holy Spirit.
Oh, but the crazy results didn't end there. Sorry, not Newcastle. Leicester they were away to Burnley. They continued their poor run of form. They rectified it, of course, this morning with a 4-1 win over West Ham, but they lost to Burnley again after taking the lead.
Well, Burnley are obviously on fire.
Yeah, they are on fire.
They're on fire because they won this.
Because they followed that up with a 2-0 win against
at Old Trafford for the first time since 1961 or 62.
62.
When is Liverpool playing them? Because that could be the hottest team in the league.
Burnley.
That's true.
I think that they've still got a bit of breathing space. They've got a bit of time. Liverpool have Wolves this week.
Yeah, Burnley might end your unbeaten run.
Yeah, Burnley could. Yeah, everyone's looking at Manchester City, Wolves.
Yeah, but no one's
looking at Burnley.
Yeah.
Well, I think if Wolves lose tomorrow morning, then they have a real crack at the unbeaten.
The unbeaten run.
I reckon they can. They can manage Man City even away.
Well,
some say that this is the game.
Well, they don't have to. They don't have to lose. I mean, they just have to.
Well, they don't have to win. You mean?
They don't have to win.
They definitely don't have to lose. They beat Manchester United.
A draw is enough. That was my point.
They beat Manchester United. Obviously, it was 2-0 in the end, and the second goal came in the 93rd minute. But it was quite comprehensive. They had two disallowed goals. One with another armpit offside, and then obviously that disallowed goal we spoke about before, where Van Dijk allegedly fouled the keeper in a different phase of play.
Are we talking about Man United?
Well, Liverpool, Manchester United.
Right,
first that game, and then we move on to the other one, because I wanted to just briefly speak about both of them. Liverpool, obviously, Wolves, but Manchester United lost to Burnley.
At home.
They were on top. They only had two shots on target, and they were
I do worry. Well, not really. I don't care. But United have Rashford out now, injured, and Pogba's still out injured. I don't know if he's still injured or not. I don't know if that's a way of just sort of diverting the topic to saying that Pogba wants out, but he's injured. He just doesn't want to play.
Well, they're missing key players. They are
missing. Rashford is a key player for them.
And early in the season, they were missing Martial for large
Martial missed a sitter. He was running into goal.
Martial doesn't have the quality that they need.
Yeah, and he took an extra touch this morning, and he's missed a goal.
Poor.
And
Pogba's been missing the entire season.
The fans weren't happy. Apparently, the pressure's mounting up. They were chanting.
At the end of the game, they got booed off the pitch.
They got booed off the pitch, but also the Glazers and Ed Woodward was.
They love jumping onto the owners,
but they're probably correctly though. I would say it's not the manager's. It's not
the manager's fault, but I mean that doesn't mean it's necessarily the owner's fault.
Who else could it be? They're running the club.
No, they've been shocking making transfers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. They haven't got the right personnel. They just have an awful team.
Although that said, I mean, I think Solskjaer's righted the ship somewhat, but now the problem is that nobody wants to come.
He can't take them any further. I don't think he can take them.
All the signings he's made this season.
I cannot see this. Pogba is a liability because he just destroys the
culture.
I don't know
he's
what's
not good
happening.
He's not good in the locker room.
In the locker room, right? But he's definitely not a leader that you need, right? There is no unity. There is no unity in that team. You can kind of tell. I mean,
well, Ashley Young leaving was sort of
that was surprising. Yeah,
partially surprising.
Mata, to his credit's been trying to be a leader, and he's done an okay job at it.
He's jumped right back into the fray now. He's been pretty.
Yeah, he has been. He's been quite good recently in the last few games.
Then you've got these, just very average players like Lingard.
Yeah,
Martial is also pretty average, I reckon.
Martial's actually one of their key players.
Well, I was looking at this team.
He is because they got an empty
forward line.
Well, they got no one to turn to, right? So Martial has to play, and he's a key player, but he's not of the quality that you would want in a team that attempts to win the league, for example, right?
Mm.
He's just nowhere near. He blows all these chances, right? A good player should score.
A striker,
right?
like a pure,
And then, what have they got in? Other than Mata, who's old,
but
what have they got in midfield to pull the strings, right?
And they haven't. Their reserves are all very. They're not up to it. The players on the bench. I was looking at this team before the season started. I thought if they finish fifth or sixth, that is a good season. Because this team, I thought, geez, they could finish as low as 10th.
And speaking of which, the doom and gloom,
I think Solskjaer's done very well for what he's been given.
Oh yeah, they're in fifth currently.
Yeah. I cannot see them progressing a hell of a lot, without investing
up the
seriously, because as I say, you got a left back, right? You play a left back, right? And then you swap him for another left back towards the end, like
like for like.
What is that?
There's no
when you're 2-0 down. When you're
2-0 down, so that means that the starting left back is not aggressive enough, probably because he seeks, something, to score, right? So the other left back is more aggressive, but he's not good enough to start, right? Nothing there seems to make a lot of sense. That centre back, right?
Maguire?
No, the other one.
Lindelof.
Phil.
Oh, Phil Jones.
Phil Jones.
Yeah.
He's a ticking time bomb. I mean, you never know what he's going to come up with.
Bit of an awesome Andy.
Maguire, the most overpaid player, probably, other than.
Yet still probably their best defender.
Well, other than the Sanchez, right?
Sanchez
is probably the worst, and this guy is not far behind because he's not worth £80 million.
To them, he is.
He's not that good.
He is to Manchester United, I would say.
That's the thing. Because it's actually funny because Leicester sold this guy for 80 million. Like United are desperate, and then they replace him with that Turkish centre back, and he's having a better season than Maguire.
Yeah, I mean, it is a collective performance.
Soyuncu's his name.
Yeah, Soyuncu.
He's not that good either.
I just want to point to the stats for this game for Manchester United against Burnley. Obviously, it ended up 0-2, but Manchester United 72% possession, 24 shots to 5, 7 on target, 2 on target for Burnley, 2 goals for Burnley, and one of the goals for Burnley was a bit of a great hit.
It was a good hit, yeah.
But the keeper was caught out of position. He was
out of position.
He was off his near post, but when the shot came, he just wasn't expecting it to come.
So if he was in position, he would have saved it because it hit the crossbar and went down. So
yeah,
it was the perfect shot. I mean, he couldn't.
But he would have saved it because the angle was too short. But he just wasn't expecting the shot. So
it's not out of his. It's not. He didn't have to expect a shot like that, didn't he? I mean, it wasn't like, he's going to put it in the top corner there.
Because he stuck his arm out at it, but it was too slow. But
he was covering the shot across the
he wasn't expecting the shot. Yeah, well, that's why. Because
it looked like he was at fault.
Yeah.
Because, a near post, basically, a keeper is always at fault, right?
Jeez. But if he was covering the near post and...
He wasn't.
No, I was like, if he was.
Oh, right.
If he was.
He would have stopped it.
But if he shot across the goal, would he have stopped it?
Yeah, he would have stopped
it. So he still would have stopped, so he's out of position.
Yeah, he like I said, he wasn't expecting the shot. So.
Coming from a non-keeper's position here,
yeah.
Just asking questions.
Well, you could speak from experience, right? You've been a pretty decent keeper yourself. Right?
Yeah, I've made a lot of great saves in my time.
But
one with my nose, it was a very, very good save. That one. Did it with my nose.
I mean, you stayed big, right?
I didn't fall down. I kept playing.
That's the way. Huh?
The ball just smashed into the nose at full pelt.
Now,
I played out the game. That's right.
Moving on from Manchester United, though, Arsenal keeping up with Arteta and the Ancelotti rivalry. It is.
Is this a rivalry? I thought it was just.
Well, for me, it's a rivalry. They both drew both their games. In slightly different circumstances, though. Arsenal drew with Sheffield after taking the lead.
But Sheffield's a good team.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Apparently, Sheffield had their worst game of the season so far.
Oh, it was a good team to do it against.
But they were good in the right spots, and they scored a goal. It was a nice goal.
They only have to score one goal, and they'll get a draw.
Yeah, because they don't concede.
No,
they don't. And in terms of the defense is still up there. It's not quite as good as it was earlier on. They were I think third best before, but now they've moved down a bit, but still very good. And they deservedly sit in 8th right now, 1 point behind. Lo and behold, Manchester United.
No, that's incredible.
Who are equal on points with Tottenham and Wolves.
It's funny that they could still get relegated because they're only on 30 or something
32 points.
But they've had a great season so far.
Yeah, it's an incredible season. And speaking of the relegation zone, there's Watford on 23 points.
And they lost to Aston Villa. So they looked in form and then they dropped a game. So maybe the magic's gone.
And they moved ahead in that game too. But before we get to them, Sheffield drew with Arsenal. Then Arsenal in the next game drew with Chelsea after conceding the most ridiculous red card penalty. In the 27th minute, I think it was.
I don't know what he was doing.
Why was there a double punishment on this one?
The double punishment was because it wasn't a goal-scoring opportunity, it was a goal. So basically, it was an open goal, and he fouled him and prevented him from scoring...
From shooting.
Yeah,
so it's
into an open goal.
It's denying a goal-scoring opportunity.
But it was an open goal.
So where's the keeper?
Is this the rule?
He's already rounded the keeper.
So it's a goal scoring. Oh, I say. So he stopped him from shooting. So it's the same thing. It's a red card.
No. So if there was a keeper there, right, then it's a goal scoring opportunity, right?
I understand.
Which is not the same as
if there is a penalty, then you get a yellow card.
No. So the rule is okay. I don't know if you're aware of this, Cos. But
I think it's a red card.
No.
So based on the rules.
So the red card is only for. It's not for a goal scoring opportunity in the box anymore, because a goal scoring opportunity is given back through the penalty, right? So it's a double whammy otherwise, right?
So they changed it.
Yeah, they changed. I think that was 2 seasons ago.
So it was meant to be a yellow card.
No. So
no.
The difference between this is that, like, for example, Suarez, handballs it on the line.
Yeah, well, Suarez is a genius.
Yeah, but that's a red card because that's not denying a goal scoring opportunity. That's denying a clear goal.
I understand that.
So in this, it was deemed to be a clear goal because he'd rounded the keeper.
Oh, so he would have just passed it in, basically.
Yeah, he would have passed it into an empty net.
So that's why.
And Louise was saying that there was another defender that had basically got it onto the line and made it difficult, but the decision stood. They kept the red card and they got the penalty. So that's where that came from. Jorginho wrong-footed the keeper. He dived the right way, but. You could tell that the keeper was expecting it to possibly go straight down the middle, and then he didn't.
No, he's a good player. He's a good player, Jorginho.
But they scored the first. So Chelsea scored the first goal, and it just looked like it was going to be a procession from there because Chelsea's defense looked relatively solid. Arsenal, I don't know, looked a bit like they were sort of fishing.
Until they got a red card. Chelsea
didn't get a red card.
They did.
Not in this game.
I'm sure they did.
No, that was a different game.
Okay.
So, in this game it stayed... Arsenal had 10 men for the whole game, and Chelsea had 11. But Arsenal responded with a goal, with a Gerrard-like slip from N'Golo Kante on the halfway line. I don't know if you've seen the highlights for this one.
Yeah, he really stuffed it up.
I'll let you take this one. Just explain the picture For any listeners,
it was almost like deliberate. The guy couldn't have slipped in a worst moment, and so awkwardly that it was almost funny, but not if you're a Chelsea fan.
It was Kante though, so it's not as funny because Kante's just everyone loves Kante because he's just such a nice guy, but you don't want it to happen to him, but it did. Martinelli picked up the ball deep in Arsenal's half.
Two blokes chasing him, and
they thought, all right, Kante's there, he'll slow him down.
And they couldn't get to him.
So, they couldn't.
They were very slow, obviously, because the guy had the ball, right? So he always.
He had a bit of a head start.
Yeah, but they didn't even close him down.
Well, it's funny because I think what happened was that they both saw Kante was there, and they were expecting him to slow Martinelli down, but then he ended up just tripping over himself, and then the two defenders that were chasing Martinelli just now we're in trouble, and they almost caught him, but eventually he got there, and then just slotted it into the bottom corner, 1-1, and then Chelsea scored again, kind of late on. It was like the 82nd minute or something like that.
And you thought it was done.
And you think, all right, it's over now.
They're a man up as well.
And they retreated. They went back. They invited pressure, and the second equaliser came. Eventually,
but see, that's the thing about Arsenal, isn't it? They're showing
resilience,
showing character.
That's serious character.
It is.
Although also a serious stuff up from Chelsea.
It's a more serious stuff up from Chelsea than serious character.
Yeah.
Because
it's true.
A good team, there's no way they would have let the victory slip.
And
in that position, and they weren't that good. I mean, Arsenal were not that great.
No, they weren't, and that's what I just thought after the first goal went in. I watched it for the next 30-40 minutes.
A clean break, right? Which is again.
It came from nowhere.
Yeah, it came from
nowhere. It wasn't through Arsenal's genius or anything like that.
I'm not sure about this keeper. The keeper is not that good either. He's the most expensive one. But Arrizabalaga. Well, no,
or Kepa, as they call
I don't necessarily like him.
No one wants to pronounce his full name. But yeah, no, it was. I agree completely that and it's so hard to judge this season because it's been nuts. Obviously, Liverpool's the complete.
Well, that's what happens when you got a very competitive season, and you got squads that are very competitive.
But you can't tell if it's through the incompetence of the teams or because everyone's good. No,
I think it's not incompetence. Everyone is. It's a quality.
Everyone's equally
league.
Incompetent.
No, because when you got a league or a country that's dominating in European football, especially last season, the quality is there.
Yeah.
So it's clearly everyone's good, and there's just little factors in each game that are swinging the results.
But there's such a big gap between.
But Liverpool's just a master of consistency, and they just win every week.
But even them, right? So Liverpool,
and they're a very good team.
Well, Liverpool have that big gap at the top. Now it's 19. No, it's 17.
13 points. And,
13 points with 2 games in hand.
It's 88 in the last 90 or something. So that's
91 of the last 93.
91 of the last 93. So that's insane.
It is nuts. And but the thing on top of that is that then Man City and Leicester have a big gap between them and the rest, or them and Chelsea, and then Chelsea has another big gap too. So so 13 with 2 games in hand. Then it's 3 points to Leicester and 8 points down to Chelsea and 6 points to Manchester United. So there's a 14-point gap between Leicester and the other Champions League hopefuls, which is it's similar to the lead that Liverpool has at the top. So yeah, like you say, it's a hierarchy.
Yeah, there is a hierarchy,
and it's just.
Do you want to hear the story about how I thought Chelsea got a red card?
Okay.
Because this is what happens when I don't sleep.
Right.
I haven't been sleeping.
Merge the two stories
for a few reasons, but when I don't sleep, my thoughts just don't line up.
It happens to the best of us.
It happened at least, but I watched highlights this morning of the Italian Coppa Italia. Napoli and Arsenal both got red cards, and I just assumed it was Chelsea and Arsenal. So there you
go. Napoli and Lazio, yeah.
Yeah.
And who won?
Napoli won 1-0. I don't know how.
I think they conceded the red card second, didn't they?
It was second, yeah.
Yeah, so Lazio conceded first.
Yeah.
The red card, and then
Lazio somehow didn't equalise. They had a penalty as well, and Immobile slipped as he took the penalty.
See, the slip happened, the red card.
He slipped and
it's all similar.
He put the ball over the bar, and everyone was laughing at him. All the Napoli fans. It was very funny.
Oh, they shouldn't be laughing though.
That's the story about how I thought there was 2 red cards.
You're getting all your wires crossed today.
No, well, when I don't sleep, the wires aren't working. They don't work when I don't sleep.
All right, adding to all the things that have happened. Norwich, after their win... Well, actually, no, they got their first win in a while against Bournemouth.
Did they?
1-0.
Yeah.
And that was incredible, that game, because that was a game, really, the battle of the 2 bottom
And Norwich
teams.
won, which they needed to win.
But they won with a penalty.
Yeah.
Another red card penalty.
Pookie
scored. That's right, getting some fantasy points.
Is it Pookie or Pookie?
We're just going off the English
Pookie.
pronunciation.
It's Pookie. I thought
It'd be Pookie.
Yeah,
but,
well, don't worry about the English.
Yeah, true. The English don't know what they're doing. But the incredible save from... Was it Steve Cook from Bournemouth?
Sounds right.
It was a keeper save, basically, from a defender. One of the most experienced defenders. I think it was going in. I think you remember that save from the Bournemouth player who was on the ground and just stuck his hand up, got a fingertip to it, knocked it onto the post.
That was one of the greatest saves I've ever seen.
But
yeah, pretty stupid.
Well, he's given his team he did save it, but
was it on target at least?
It was on target.
Okay, so
well,
he made them.
I think the official rule is if it's not on target, it's not a red card. I think.
What?
Because if
it's not on target,
if the ball's not on target,
target,
it's not a red card. It's a yellow then,
Fair
because
enough.
they get the penalty, and it wasn't going in anyway.
So he got red carded.
But he got red carded,
yeah,
and then they scored from the penalty.
Okay, yeah.
And that was
it's only worth it if he saves the penalty, and then it's like, well.
But Bournemouth finally ended their losing streak by winning
3-2,
3-1 against Brighton, and the goal they scored against them was just a ripper from Aaron Moy. In fact, they had 2 really good shots saved by their keeper.
He's a good player,
Moy. And Moy had one of those shots, just going for the top corner, both saved, and then Moy just blasted one with his left foot. It was almost like a shot out of anger.
Frustration, yeah.
And then just smashed into the top corner.
He's not bad, but he looks lazy. He looks like Shelby, you know.
Is that to do with the...
Not with hair. It looks like, you know, he only runs quickly, you know, very, very rarely, when he like gets impatient. Otherwise he just moves.
That's a very Shelby-like.
Moves.
They both have a bit of a temper.
Slowly, and
they're almost interchangeable, Moy and Shelby. I'm sure Moy's got some serious English blood in him, but
maybe Newcastle can
buy
this
in a similar sort of way.
Maybe Inter Milan's going for him too.
Who's Shelby?
But Moy and Shelby, both of them.
Yeah, you reckon?
They're both Longstaff brothers.
Is this written by the Sun again?
This would definitely be written.
I'm actually concerned if that's true.
Oh no, that's not a real article. That's
going for him.
They're not going for him.
That's worrying.
But at the bottom of the table, so Norwich again. So after they win against Bournemouth, they couldn't follow it up against Tottenham. They had a potential for a draw, but they lost 2-1. Tottenham scored late to get the points for Tottenham and bring them in line with Manchester United and Wolves.
So Tottenham's in 6th, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And they're behind United with a goal in goal difference. I'm pretty sure Tottenham have scored more goals than Manchester United. So had Manchester United lost by an extra goal or Tottenham won by an extra goal, they would be 5th. Okay. So Mourinho is slowly pushing his way up. How do you rate Mourinho's return to the Premier League?
I cannot see Tottenham being very successful this season, and I don't think Mourinho is going to make any miracles there. I'm seeing them as in a similar sort of vein to the United lineup. They not.
Well, they are equal in points.
They seem to just want away. You know, they don't make an impression of a team that's well gelled and too many individuals there. No matter what they're trying to do,
including the manager.
or the manager is actually the manager is now trying to pretend he's a different guy. so he's trying to show like his personality has changed. He's trying to be like a bit of like a good uncle rather than a bastard.
You reckon eventually he'll just revert to his old self?
I don't know whether he will revert to his own self, but
some say he's already starting to.
I can see that he's not gonna make any miracles with this team. I cannot, okay, he's got this whatever the Ericsson guy who will leave, for sure.
Yeah, he'll.
So Ali is a bit of a airhead, right?
Dele Ali.
Well, he has
he lost Kane, who was probably the most professional of the whole team there, right?
Well, he's their leader, captain
in a way, right? And then he doesn't have really any personnel, to write home about. And
Kane or Mourinho?
Mourinho,
right?
Crappy defense. This is a team that's gone backwards. In other words, right? Compared to the last couple of seasons, I can only see them going backwards. And Mourinho will, maybe he will last beyond this season, but.
Well, that's a quick turnaround. He got signed this season and said he'd pack him in the same.
I think they'll keep him on for next season, but if he's not doing well next season,
they'll probably try and give him some more time. But
well, Tottenham also have not won anything for a very long time, anything at all. I think since 2007, and
I thought it was a lot longer than that.
Well, it's the FA Cup, so
yeah, but I thought it was like 1960 or something. The way you
and then the 90s. Or maybe that was the League Cup. I can't even. But either way, so in that sense, not winning a title within a season is not necessarily a failure, and he might get afforded more time. We're not talking about winning a title.
It's more about are they developing their own style of play, right? He couldn't be any more different to Pochettino's, right?
Yeah.
So they picked a guy who has to just redo the style again. So it's just you'll have to relearn.
Redo it to nothing.
Relearn things, right? So there is no continuity there, right? It's like that's one thing. Secondly, as I said, the team doesn't look like they're gelling very well. They seem to be disjointed and
they're sort of just thrown into the mix and hoping for the best.
So it's hard to see where he can really progress.
Well, I'm really surprised they haven't signed anyone yet, to be honest. In the January transfer window, I really thought that Mourinho would get at least like a defender of some sort, or something to help him play the style that he likes to play. Like, I mean, against Liverpool when he played, it was a clear, just classic Mourinho double bus, holding him up for 70 minutes and then having a go at the end. And they really gave it a good go at the end, but he can't defend with that team.
Well, that's right. So everything that they did, right, it's clear that there was no, leading thought, some strategy in mind. It was more like, we have to get rid of this guy there. Mourinho is the biggest name, available, and he was, making sure that everyone knew that when he was one of those punters, whatever, right?
Pundits.
Yeah.
Pundits, right? And then they just picked him.
Yeah, it's like that lineup at school when you're picking who's going to be in your team.
So you're building your style, you're building your character, right? You're building the identity, right? This is every successful team has to go through these stages, right? If you want to maintain some level, right? So like Man United had that sort of identity, right? And they would not relent, right? They would not change it, right? So suddenly, once the old bloke left, the successors, they simply were unable to maintain that identity, right? And it was eroding, and now it's just shambles.
They are where they are now, yeah.
So, So this Solskjaer was brought in probably with some sort of afterthought. Say, he knows that, the locker room. He knows the inside out. So maybe
he knows the Manchester United winning culture,
the mentality,
right?
But then he's lacking everything else, maybe. So again, this probably is not a good recipe, right? But Mourinho is just poles opposite to the predecessor. So he's undoing all the work, and then
the Pochettino's
and
done.
I think he's past his best as the coach, and to me the most disturbing sign is that he actually pretends to be somebody else, right? So he's just smiling, he just doesn't. It never happened before, right? It was always, it was always different, right?
Well, you got to entertain
somehow. So there you go. So.
All right. So moving. Oh, still on topic with Tottenham. Just looking at the table, the goal difference sort of tell the story. We've got Liverpool on 38 as equal with Man City, Leicester 28. So that's usually a good gauge of the distance they are. Chelsea 9 goal difference. So that's a drop of 21.
Yeah, well that's what it is.
And then it's sort of a steady decline. 7 for Manchester United, 6 from Tottenham, 4 for Wolves, 2 for Sheffield United, 9th place Southampton minus 11 with their because
that
of
was
that
9-0.
The 9-0 and subsequent defeats. The reason I bring that up is Southampton is 3 points behind United, Tottenham, and Wolves, who are.
It was a great recovery by them.
Well, Southampton are they're as close to Chelsea as they are to the 19th spot. They're closer to 19th spot than they are Chelsea, but by only a point though. It's basically the same. But out of Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham, because Chelsea's had a bit of a rough couple of game weeks. They lost to Newcastle at Newcastle, and then they threw away a win against Arsenal. Who's going to make the top 4, the last top 4 spot? Out of Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham, Wolves, and let's just throw in the dark horse of Sheffield United.
No, I would still say Chelsea.
Still Chelsea?
I reckon.
Cos?
I would stick with
sticking with Chelsea.
Yeah, I think overall they are a better team than the other two approaching them.
There's 4 teams approaching.
No, well I think Chelsea should. They'll make the top 4.
So you're not giving Wolves a chance.
Oh, I forgot about Wolves. Yeah.
United, Tottenham, Wolves, Sheffield.
Look, out of those 4, Wolves would be the ones to leapfrog Chelsea.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, an interesting
because the way Wolves are playing, they've had a tough fixture list recently.
Well, they started really slow as well,
and they started slow because of they were in Europe.
A lot of draws.
Well, because they were in Europe for the first time.
But
as well, so that didn't help them. But out of those 4, Wolves would be the most likely.
So
based on how they're playing.
Interesting.
I'll stick with Chelsea still.
Interesting stat, because Wolves. The reason I bring this up is because Wolves have had 10 draws out of their 23 games. However, they're not the most draws in the league.
Who's that?
There are 2 teams, Watford and Norwich, who have had less wins than Arsenal this season. However, there are also.
What's that got to do with the draws?
There are also only 2 teams.
Arsenal
Wolves.
Plenty of draws, but probably.
So there's only 3 teams that have less losses than Arsenal. So
right.
Arsenal,
yep.
6 wins, 12 draws, and 6 losses. So they've drawn exactly half their games. 12 draws. Just for context, usually if somebody ends up with, let's say, 12, 13 draws in the entire season, that's usually insane. They're already on 12 draws. There are still 14 games left in the season.
They can hit 25. They should go for 25.
But that's another interesting stat, that Wolves are the team that's lost the second most, equal with City, 5 losses only. However, they've drawn 10 games. That's the difference between them and City. The Wolves really are a shot for the top 4, aren't they?
I would say so.
It's just that, I guess, the Europa League.
Just watching how they. Yeah, that's the thing. The Europa, the fixtures will pile up again.
But they seem to be doing okay.
Well, let's hope that Liverpool are going to have a good game in the morning.
Because,
it's going to be a a tough one.
Well, if they do get anything out of the game against Liverpool, and they'll only be the second team to do that this season if they do, then that'll move them into 5th place and within 5 points or potentially 3 points of Chelsea with a similar goal difference. And I to be honest, I don't think Chelsea's going to make the top 4. They're too inconsistent, I think. And I think
they are inconsistent, but yeah, the Wolves...
I think Tottenham have really, despite the fact that they've, they're 6th, right? And under Mourinho, they look unconvincing. They have improved under Mourinho.
Yeah, look, which wasn't hard to do. They all could make the top 4, but I don't think United will. But Tottenham could. But
United have got some easy fixtures coming up against top 6 opposition. So
okay,
so they're going to get some points now.
Yeah,
they're playing against direct rivals. They're playing Chelsea. In fact, actually, United's fixture list looks very interesting in the next few games. They play Wolves at home. Then
that's a loss. There you go.
It's a what? A loss?
That's a loss.
At home. Anyway, they play away at Chelsea.
That's a draw.
They play home to Watford. So that's
a draw.
Oh, that's good effort for United to get a draw there.
Yeah.
They play away to Everton. Mr. Ancelotti.
That's a draw.
And then they host Manchester City.
That's a loss.
So, look. And then they play away to Tottenham. So
that's a loss.
So
that's a loss.
It doesn't even end there. Then they host Sheffield. So it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming.
They'll get a draw there.
I think they've got a much easier end to the season. They're playing basically all the relegation strugglers.
I've been very close with Newcastle with my weird tips, so we'll see how I go with United.
Well, boys, I will leave you.
Well, I think that's a place to wrap it up anyway. So, thank you guys.
Good work, boys.
Thank you guys for coming down.
Thank you, Greg,
for joining us for this, being a special guest. Thank you, Cos, as always. Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you haven't subscribed to our podcast yet, then please do so. And obviously, we've got our YouTube channel as well, so check that out.
Facebook page, you know the drill.
Yeah. But until next week, thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you then.
Yeah, I'll talk to you then. I'm going to bed.
Going to bed too.